Hi, Subaru's Minhan Talk Cosmos Chat, January 15, 2021. And it is Friday today. Yesterday I said Friday, but today is Friday. The chart today, let's look at it. This is from Kalua. The moon has changed. The moon has moved away now a couple of days. It's still in this area during maybe, it's in the 5th house, so it's about maybe 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock. It's just a sliver of a moon, what they might call Diana's bow. I wonder, in mythology, Cronus, the Greek name for Saturn in Roman times, is about time. It established time. He was one of the Titans, one of the early gods of mythology that lasted, because Uranus, the sky god, and Uranus here is at 6 degrees in Taurus, was usurped his power from, and time, you could say, was established. So looking at time, it wasn't just established, it's a natural phenomenon. The moon, the light and dark, and because of the tilt of our axis, which is 23.44 degrees heading north and the South Pole, we have differences, variations of that light and dark that we all live with. At the equator, where it's more constant, the days and nights are more even. At the extremes, of course, there's intense periods of months where there is no light or any dark. So in other words, time was something that people needed to negotiate and operate with. And you could say that on many terms, Saturn represents that time. It represents a definition. It's not just a homogeneous, uncontrolled, limitless essence of being, although there is this continuity of cycles that is eternal too. Meaning that right now we are still in that moment of looking at our sense of role and capacity and time. But the moon, moving 13 degrees since yesterday even, has left that new moon on the 12th and 13th, and it's still in Aquarius. And it is asking us more deeply our emotional connection to what is actually authentic. It is a theme that will not leave us all year. It will be here. And why? Because its modern ruler is Uranus. Now, Uranus has such significance. The grand conjunction of that we're immediately experiencing, this new 800-year cycle that is now going to be in, that goes through the elements, and we've left Earth as our consciousness of form. Now, that does not mean that we leave it and we forget about it, but instead of putting it on such a pedestal of our entire priorities in life, as everything is funneling through that consciousness, we are now integrating an air cycle. Now, there are different forms of air. The air sign, Aquarius, is the one that's initiating this whole process. And it is that archetype, there's depth to these seeds of consciousness, and but one is collaboration of network, because community is a major focus. And so it also wants elevation. So because the moon is at this point, 23 degrees, as it's moving rapidly, tomorrow it's going to be in Pisces, which is another consciousness. Our emotions change. It's if they say that, and I know I'm elaborating here, but that the moon people, or the full moons, are emotional. Well, that is the purpose and role of a moon, is to connect us with some prism of thought that it is rapidly going through. There's many changes is the message here. So right now it is in Aquarius. And the reason that I'm going back again to Uranus is because Uranus and Saturn are approaching a square, 1 of 3. It's been brought up by myself and many astrologers, but yet we can thread it through indifferently. So it wants our authenticity, because if we move so fast, we can't gravitate to what is internally true to us. We have no compass. That is a truth that the world seems to be impressing on us in so many fashions. And at this moment, if we look at 23 degrees of Aquarius, it really, there is this idea of traditional astrology. Again, we're not throwing anything out. We're just trying to reframe, like, I'm looking at you from a new window. And right now, if we look at that, it's right next door. And it's, they say in astrology, it's very hard, the traditional, to see in its entirety something that is in the next sign right next door to you. It's better if it's like the next sign that sextile is what it's called, 60 degrees within that framework, or the, so there's different relationships. And really in life, we can understand this. There are certain relationships that are just a little trickier. So as we process this emotional depth, always following a new moon, there's going to be a little bit of, perhaps the best way to look at it is, it's an avenue to, we looked at a new seed. That's the purpose of a new moon. Let's try to start a new pathway, dropping what didn't work and renew ourselves. But because it's in a sign that's adjacent, right next door, in conjunctus, we call it somewhat with astrology, then it's required to have a different relationship to some of these other energies. So at 23, if you go to Pisces, no, it's next door. That's not going to work. So you look at Aries. Well, there's Eris, and it is conjunct exactly 23 to Eris. Now, Eris is the sister to Mars. I think I get, yes. And she is the discontent. Not that she intended, or maybe she did, I don't know, with astrology. The point is that she was left out, and so she asked a question, and that is really her purpose, is to get, what have we been leaving out of ourselves? What needs to be included? And really, it relates on a community basis. So it can really help us. Has there been something that is part of our becoming? Because Aries is separation and wants to become. It wants a new identity. That's part of the cycle. It's a spark. And where is it in that we have left out in our thinking, looking at the whole chart? Inclusiveness. Is it the fact that every flower has a gift of being a flower, meaning that every person has a gift of being the dignity that they are, and that we need to somehow think largely enough that we can come to really a commonality between us, some kind of a respect and regard, you know, borrowing from that Capricorn essence of respect, because there is authority. And is that authority being used in such a way that gives strength and encouragement and life to everybody? Because in some ways, if there is this thought that because we're all on a boat, you might say, together, if it gets too heavy and there's a hole we could sink, there's ways of utilizing or just incorporating, like yesterday or a couple of days ago, Sarah Stromley of the Moonbeam team was mentioning about Tai Chi, or not necessarily Tai Chi, but where you use in the Asian arts of the defense of motion, rather than force against force, collaborate that for energy and reconstruct. Well, thank you so much. Blessings to all, and please comment, connect, and lots of love to you.